Welcome everyone to another Q&A live office hour. I am welcoming my friends right now from LinkedIn and YouTube, and we are now going over to Facebook and we will connect our video there. Let's go ahead and connect our video source to our Facebook group so that we can welcome everyone. If you are joining me on LinkedIn and YouTube, you can feel free to join our Facebook group. Hold on here. All right, let's see here. Oh, it's not working. Hold on one second. It says we're having trouble streaming to your destination again. Okay, hold on one second, everyone. Okay. Let's just make sure we have the right details here. I might need to come back to you. Let me just reset this. I think we should be okay. Please drop where you're joining us from. Oh, I think there we go. I just refreshed the page. And there you go. Like sometimes the tech is not all that difficult. Sometimes we overthink it. So the key is to relax and just kind of let it go. Here we go. I think we're good now. Hello, welcome friends in the Facebook group. Good to see you. We are already on with LinkedIn and YouTube. Let's see here, just refresh the screen and make sure that we are live. There we are. And I see that the screen share isn't working again. Okay, so for those of us in the Facebook group, for some reason, Facebook is not letting me screen share from StreamYard. So today, when I do screen share, which will just be brief moments here and there, I will narrate for you where we are. And then just know that when this live is done, we're actually going to post the video both here in the Facebook group, and we'll post the recording for you inside of the library so that you can see the screen share. We're screen sharing a little block here right now for our friends on LinkedIn and YouTube. So I think that'll work out. Joni, thank you for joining us. Molly from our team is here with us, as is Hillary. I would love for this session to be highly interactive. So please, as we're kind of going through our live office hour today, drop in comments. Even a like, a heart would be awesome. We're here to answer all of your questions. Nobody will leave here with questions unanswered, but you have to drop them in the comments so that we can see them. If you're watching this as a replay, please be sure to use the hashtag replay and ask your question, and then we will be alerted to be on that. All right, let's get started. I'm always excited. I always start by saying, oh, I'm so excited about today. But you know, that's really genuine. Like I'm so excited for these Q&A office hours always, because we always pick out like really hot topics that are relevant to our members. Our members let us know what they want us to talk about. And so today is super relevant to not only registered dietitians, but also any practitioner who practices food as medicine. We're going to be talking about, from a nutrition perspective, what happens after you conduct an assessment, a full assessment of a client or a patient. All right, give me a thumbs up if everything is good, Hillary. I think you can hear me. Just give me a thumbs up, Hillary, in the Facebook group. I've got it pulled up here. Great. Well, I'm Jeannie Petrucci, registered dietitian, nutritionist. I'm the founder of Living Plate RX. And today we're going to be talking about what happens after the assessment process. Now, from a practitioner perspective, really all practitioners, like the assessment process is always step one, right? You're gathering information, you're gathering data. What happens after the assessment process when it comes to nutrition is a little unique to nutrition care. It's very unique, actually, to nutrition care, and it is an evidence-based process. So what we're going to do today is take you through that, and we're going to be connecting content that either you have access to in your Living Plate RX library or content that you create on your own. For those of you who are not aware of what Living Plate RX is, we provide practitioners, health and wellness practitioners, again, who practice food as medicine, with all the content and resources they need to fuel their practice. So yes, we offer digital meal planning, which is super exciting, super slick, best in the business, but we offer so much more. And what you will see today is that meal planning really is only one part of the nutrition care process that we're going to talk about. It's an important part and it's kind of a high value part, but it's only one small part. So you really need to think about all of the other things as well. I am going to keep the screen share up just so that I don't lose that for our LinkedIn and YouTube viewers. All right, so let's get started with reviewing what we're going to be covering today, the agenda. And as I'm doing that, if you could please drop where you're joining us from. I always love to hear where people are joining us from throughout the country and throughout the world. We do have some international practitioners as well. So today we're going to break down what you do after the assessment. What I want to just take 1 minute right now and do is define what the nutrition care process is. The nutrition care process is an evidence-based way, meaning that if you follow the nutrition care process, you are more likely to get better health outcomes for your patients, right? So it is a standardized process that has been studied. It is the acronym for the nutrition care process is called ADIME. It's like what we learn in our master's programs day one and also undergrad too. ADIME starts with assessment, which we'll talk briefly about today because that's super important, but really the focus of today is going to be what happens after that. So assessment, diagnosis, right? So you assess your client, a lot of different measures that you're going to be taking a look at, a lot of data. Then you're going to diagnose. Then you're going to build an intervention. Then you're going to monitor that intervention because behavior change is not linear. It's very dynamic. People just don't go from point A to point B and have success, yay, right? And they're done. It's very fluid, very dynamic. And so monitoring is really important because once you build an intervention, which we'll do today, you will need to monitor what is happening, like what kind of success they are having. And in order to monitor their success, you need to provide them with actionable goals, which is part of the intervention. And then the evaluation phase. So often monitoring and evaluation, so that's the E, it's often lumped together because you do monitor, evaluate, and then you kind of bounce back. Do I need to change the intervention? Then you monitor and evaluate again. You understand what I'm saying here, right? So it really is very fluid and dynamic. Oh, hi, Karen. Karen is joining us from Phoenix. Good to see you. Tracy from Delaware, Southern California. Great. All different time zones. Love it. All right. So the agenda for today. Number one, we're going to talk about prioritizing diagnoses in a way that honors your client's goals while understanding what will have the greatest impact with the least amount of effort. That's really important to remember. We're going to talk about that quite a few times today. Number two, create a plan for your client or your patient that is sustainable and that drives behavior change. We always have to be focused on behavior change because that is the mediator that we're focusing on, right? The mediator isn't blood sugar levels. Like you can change blood sugar levels, but the question is, how are you going to do that? That's our job. That's our jam. We need to stay in our lane there because we're not issuing prescriptions to regulate somebody's blood sugar. We're changing their intake, right? And that is a behavior that they are going to engage in. So every time we build a plan, we're thinking behavior. What behaviors can my clients, can my patients engage in that will drive behavior change? Number three, avoid post-assessment pitfalls that can potentially stall progress for your clients. Number four, build interventions that clients really get excited about and most importantly, can be measured. When you build interventions that clients can get excited about and do get excited about, that is what drives revenue for your practice. They're satisfied, they're getting results, they're sharing you with their friends, right? Referrals. If it's a referring doctor, they're excited to see the results clients are having. When clients are happy, business is good. Right? That's why you want to build interventions that clients get excited about. Again, as a reminder, please ask questions, comments, likes. I want this to be really interactive. So do that for me. Okay. Question number one. So we polled our Facebook group. We proposed a number of topics. So this was a topic that was picked. And then we asked them questions that they wanted to cover. And so we've ranked them. And this one by far was the most popular question that they wanted answered, and it's no wonder because it's pretty loaded. And the question is, what's the best way to organize, one, create, two, deliver, three? So what is the best way to organize, create, and deliver a nutrition care plan that clients will actually use? So we're starting here because this was what our members wanted to know most about. And it really, a lot of this happens, like what happens after they become your client. So somebody becomes your client, you assess them, and then what, right? I just want to make a note here that once we talk a lot about marketing, and we support our community with oodles, mountains of content that you can use for marketing purposes and engagement purposes, and that's important. But for today, I want you to put your private practice hat on, or your coaching hat on, because this is what happens inside of your practice. Any conversation, any intervention, any communication that happens with your clients or your patients within your practice must happen inside of your EHR. So if you're just getting started and you have not established a HIPAA compliant space within which to communicate with your patients, that's actually going to be step one. And then step two, you can do all the fun stuff. But I really want to make sure that you understand that I support the use of HIPAA compliant spaces for having any conversation. The second you assess somebody and you provide a diagnosis, you are entering into the space of medical nutrition therapy. That must be in a HIPAA compliant space. Okay. The first part of this question is actually relatively easy to answer, which is, what is the best way to organize a nutrition care plan? And it's easy because the evidence tells us what to do, right? So again, if you're a dietitian, you know what to do. Now, I think I want to say it was 2012, not 100% sure, but at some point, the Academy decided, and the Academy is a governing organization for registered dietitians. They and the nutrition care process branch, they decided to move away from SOAP notes. So SOAP notes, that was another acronym, which we're not going to cover today, but they moved away from that to ADIME, ADIME, assessment, diagnosis, intervention, monitoring, and evaluation. And they moved to that. That is like, if you work in a clinical setting, you're mandated to follow that process. So I suggest that the private practice setting should be no different. So following ADIME is going to be not only the easiest way to organize somebody's care plan, but it's the proper way to do that. And it also, as you will see, will enhance the value of the services that you offer. So when you follow this framework, you are not only following an evidence-based nutrition care model, but you're also kind of reducing the figure it out burden on you. Like, I don't know about you, but this girl loves a framework. Like, just tell me what to do, yes, but then also give me a framework for it, because my mind is like I heard this on a podcast once, and I forget who said it, but my mind is like a box of mice, and you drop it in the kitchen and the mice scatter, right? Like, I'm all over the place. Like, I just want to provide value. I want to serve, but that is the quickest way to burnout. So if you follow a framework, that's really going to be your best tool. That's going to be your secret sauce. Secret because you're learning it here if you don't already know it. So just follow the framework, and the way that, so we all follow the framework, right? The way that you differentiate yourself and your practice is how you fulfill the framework. So if you're asking yourself, well, why should I be doing what everybody else is doing? Number one, it's evidence-based, right? So we all should be doing it. And number two, there are plenty of ways that you will be able to differentiate your practice. And I'll show you. So think about, how am I going to fulfill this framework? So the first two steps, and we're going to now start getting into that. Oh, Vandana, so great to see you here, friend. Good. Hi, Banaz. Good to see you. So the first step is the assessment part. Again, we're not going to be spending a lot of time here because we're going to be doing a separate session on that. Actually, I think we already did that. The assessment, we did a strategy call for our members on the assessment process. So if you missed that, go into the library and watch that. So during the assessment, you are going to start with 1 to 2 clear priorities. Patients will likely, and clients will come to you with a multitude of issues, several comorbidities, right? So there's a lot going on. You need to prioritize. So the first thing that you need to do in the assessment process, and I'm going to screen share here. Again, for those of you who are joining me on Facebook, you're not going to see this, but I'm going to share with our friends who can see. I'm going to share this tab instead. So now you can see I'm in my meal planning dashboard inside of Living Plate RX. We have integrated VioScreen. VioScreen is a validated visual dietary assessment tool. For my registered dietitians out there, yes, it is an FFQ. So when you're doing the assessment process, you need to gather data that is going to support building out the rest of your nutrition care plan. If you start weak, you're going to finish weak. If you start with data that's not solid, it's going to be really difficult to kind of measure and create and measure everything else. What BioScreen enables you to do is issue a visual dietary assessment tool to your patients and clients very quickly. These reports come back. I'm just going to do a quick share of a report. And the client gets a score, right? Super valuable, validated, healthy eating index score. The score itself isn't all that important. It's really more about improving the score. And then we give you a lot of parameters here to use. Okay. So that is going to be your most valuable assessment tool to start, in addition to all the other. It's not the only tool, right? But that one is going to establish somebody's dietary pattern. You can't change what you can't measure. So if we're looking to change somebody's dietary pattern, which we are, of course, right? I'm not in the business of changing somebody's dietary pattern for a week or even 30 days. That doesn't really get them too far, right? We'll leave that to influencers and diets and things like that, right? In order to drive a better health outcome, you need to change somebody's dietary pattern for 90 days. So if you're going to do that, then you need to know what their habits are before. So you're going to have a snapshot of, oh, here's their dietary pattern for the previous 90 days. And now they're going to start working with me and look at all the progress they are going to make. Is that making sense? Type makes sense, if that makes sense, in terms of dietary assessment, right? Food frequency questionnaires have been used in research for years. Like every dietary research paper uses a food frequency questionnaire because it's really the only way to establish somebody's long-term dietary pattern, aside from kind of self-reporting dietary recalls. But those aren't really long-term, right? So that could be the past week. Document what you ate the past week. Again, past 90 days, they're bringing that to the table. So you've got that now in the bank. So now you know what their dietary habits are. You've got this great report informing you where the client is at. Then you also need to consider your client's awareness and willingness to make changes in these areas. Are they aware that their intake in fiber is 16 grams per day or 10 grams per day? Is that news to them that their intake of fiber was low? Maybe. They probably know they don't eat enough fruits and vegetables and whole grains. But when it comes to the fiber, which is kind of what we're trying to move the needle on, let's say, they might not know, right? So helping them, supporting them, showing them the reports and assessing all of their data, letting them know kind of what their awareness is of the problem, right? The problem, again, is got to be intake related, because now we're getting to the diagnosis. The problem isn't that my blood sugars are out of control. The problem is either excessive intake of processed carbohydrates or inadequate intake of fiber potentially, right? So you focus on the intake. And then lastly here, prioritize, right? So you've got all this data, you've got your biometrics, you've got potentially the health history coming from the doctor, the health history that you collect, culinary competence, culinary confidence, collecting all of that data and saying, okay, this is where the client is. Now I'm going to prioritize, I'm going to move on to and prioritize the action that we can, the problem that we can attack that will give them the greatest impact with the least amount of effort. Now, when I say the least amount of effort, I don't necessarily mean like the easy stuff. I mean that for that patient, what is going to present the fewest barriers to them having success? I think often one of the things that kind of gets in our way, like we want to fix things for our clients and for our patients, but we must consider kind of where they're at. And it's not just like physiological things. It's also like, do they even like cooking? That's a good question to ask. Do you enjoy cooking? The answer might be yes, but I don't know how to cook, or I don't like cooking, right? The intervention for those two people is going to look vastly different. So identify based on their assessment, what are the things that will give them the greatest impact for the least amount of effort, because that is how you get habits created easier, right? And it's more sustainable too. So now let's move on to the diagnosis. Great. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the diagnosis piece of it here. I'm going to share something else in the library too. So I'll keep the screen open for our YouTube and LinkedIn friends. So the diagnosis I've already alluded to is the problem, right? You're going to prioritize it. It is almost always, 90% of the time, intake related. It's either going to be excessive intake or inadequate intake. Focusing on intake not only allows us to really stay in our lane as nutrition professionals. And again, if you are a healthcare provider or a physician and you're providing nutrition care, you got to put that hat on, right? When you're providing nutrition care, it has to be intake related, right? You have to address the problem and provide solutions that will mediate intake, either excessive intake or inadequate intake. And focusing on it also allows us to easily identify the resources and content to include in the intervention. Building out an intervention is a lot easier if we've got a solid assessment and a diagnosis that makes sense for that patient. Again, greatest impact with the least amount of effort. So I'm going to share with you here for the diagnosis piece inside of our library. I'm going to go to resources here. You can see I'm going to go down. I'm just taking you kind of on a tour of the library here. We're going to go over to counseling tools because we have some counseling tools there for you. And I'm going to type in PES because I know that's how I'm going to find it. And here you'll find your ultimate guide to creating effective PES statements, right? So problem, etiology, signs, and symptoms. That'll make a lot of sense when you go through the PES book. So as a member, go into your resource library, go into counseling tools, and you will find, just type in PES, and you will find that there. Okay, I'm just going to go back home here. Okay, so the PES statement's going to give you usually just one per patient, one PES statement. And you start there. And then as they have progress and as they have success, then you can tackle other things. So in 3 months, somebody might have 2 or 3 different PES statements, documented in their notes. But for now, you want to start with one. All right, so now we're going to move on to the second part of the main question for this category. So the first one was how to organize it, follow ADIME. The second is how to create. So how are you going to create an intervention that adds value to your practice while still remaining evidence-based and following the nutrition care plan? So this is the I of ADIME now, the intervention. This is where the fun stuff happens, no doubt. I have already stressed the importance of the assessment and diagnosis because that's setting up the foundation for your intervention. Oftentimes we rush to the intervention because either we're not familiar with ADIME or we just want to fix the problem, right? Or we're a healthcare professional who only has 15 minutes with this client. So having the assessment, a lot of that done beforehand and the diagnosis done beforehand, which the BioScreen assessment tool allows you to do, FYI, before that patient even sits down in front of you, that's great because then you can move on to the fun stuff. So it's the fun place, but it's also where kind of the turning point happens for your practice. Are you going to have a profitable business? Are you going to be able to generate revenue? The answer is going to be, I would always ask you, what do your interventions look like? Right now, you might say, oh, I have courses, I offer one-on-one, I offer group. Those are all parts of interventions, right? So when I say intervention, it's just a fancy word for really all of the resources and content that you put together for each client to support them with meeting their health goals. And you want to build an intervention that adds value to your practice, but also pays attention to driving better health outcomes for patients, and doesn't cost you your nights and weekends, right? So you need to leverage tools potentially like Living Plate RX, right? Where you can say, all right, now I'm going to build this intervention. Let me go to the library and pick out everything that I need. That's a lot easier than having to create everything from scratch. If I'm sounding like I'm selling you on Living Plate RX, I am for sure, because guess what? I was there in that counseling room with patients every day trying to build out interventions, and I was creating everything from scratch, and I burned out. And I don't want that. I don't wish that on anyone. So you are going to need to have resources well beyond just meal planning software to support you with building high value interventions for your clients. Now, I want to note something here. This is super cool. I was totally I wasn't expecting to get as much out of this webinar about EHRs that the Academy offered last week. I wasn't expecting to get as much out of it as I did. As I'm watching it, I'm just taking so many notes because during this webinar, they were talking about when you have an EHR, right, which is your electronic healthcare system, where you keep your notes and communicate with your patients. When you build out the nutrition care process, ADIME, inside of your EHR and you follow it for every patient, you get a better health outcome. We've already established that, right? Guess what was the most important part of ADIME to like referring docs or allied healthcare professionals? So if you worked as part, because this study was really done mostly in a clinical setting. So it was a study done with dietitians who worked with, part of an interdisciplinary team. So a lot of different professionals. Guess what the number one piece of ADIME was? Obviously, it was the intervention, because we're on that now. It was the intervention. It is widely recognized as the most valued piece of the nutrition care process that nutrition professionals bring to the table. So if you are working with referring physicians, or you're working with hospital systems, or you're working with nonprofits as a contractor, as part of a grant team, or even as a private practice practitioner, that's really what they want to hear about, right? I mean, the assessment's great. You can knock that out. They already know that you can diagnose someone with a nutrition-related problem, but the intervention is where you're going to be able to differentiate yourself. Because what the other practitioners want to know, basically, is what are you going to do about it? And it's likely what clients and patients are going to be asking you too when they walk through your doors or come into your Zoom counseling room. Like, so what are you going to do about it? Like, how are you going to address my problem? So let's talk about building the intervention. I'm going to hit a couple of points here. Number one, using a variety of learning modalities. Everybody learns different. So everybody learns differently. There is no one size fits all for learning for anyone. Some people learn visually. That's me. And others are really good with text, right? So while someone might be great with reading a meal plan, or a recipe pack, or even a handwritten recipe, right? Like, not handwritten, but like a PDF recipe, you hand it to them. Some people might do okay with that, but other people will do better with a cooking video. So providing them with both like a visual experience as well as text is great. Another example of a visual experience would be doing like an Instagram live or a Facebook live. A lot of our members do that, like leveraging our content. They'll demonstrate recipes during live events. Now, that's not one-on-one with a client, but that's certainly like kind of part of the overall package, right? Applying to a community setting versus one-on-one. So things like videos, cooking videos, presentations, they could be either live or recorded, handouts, of course, cooking videos, recipes, already mentioned that, ebooks, things like ebooks. Now the ebooks, they're text, but you could also put active links in those ebooks to cooking videos, which is what we do all the time. If you're going to provide somebody with a PDF recipe pack, how cool is it for you to be able to click and bring them to a cooking video? You can do that very easily inside of the Living Plate RX library. Things like one-on-one counseling, group support, voice notes. Love voice notes. Most EHRs enable you to do that. They also enable you to do SMS messaging, like text messaging. Photo journaling, my favorite tool when I was in private practice. Rather than having someone, write down what they've been eating every day, just take a picture of it. Take a picture of it and upload it to your EHR. Really great, really dynamic, really easy for people to do. Evergreen programs, so the courses that kind of run on repeat. All resources that you add to this client's intervention should be targeted to that prioritized problem. What is the problem? Let's say the problem is fiber. Every single piece of content that you should put in front of that person should be about fiber. Now, if they have a gut concern, a gut issue, or their blood sugar needs to be regulated, maybe you're going to provide some like nutrition education around that, which will also help with the problem. So you are going to focus on knowledge as well as kind of all the other stuff. So don't just focus on education. You want to focus on the culinary support, social support, and all of that too. So we're pretty good at saying, okay, here are the handouts for this patient, but you need to think bigger than that if you want to differentiate your practice. So leveraging done-for-you content from your Living Plate RX library clearly makes building an intervention essential. Again, if you're not familiar with Living Plate RX library, actually Hillary and Molly, if you could drop the link for a demo call. I'm going to, at the end, I will share with you how you can connect with me, and I'll give you a personal tour of our resources. But we'll drop that now since I'm mentioning it. But the library is just like any other library. My mom was a librarian for over 45 years in a public school system. I know the value of a well-organized library. So just imagine walking into a library that is dedicated to nutrition science and being able to just walk down the counseling tools, or again, blood sugar, fiber. You could search, there's a variety of things that you can search in there and find the content you need to build your intervention. It takes minutes instead of potentially days, right? So putting that together is really, really simple. You just brand it, edit it, and put it together. So I'm going to give you some examples of content that and I'll show you for those of you on LinkedIn and YouTube. I'm going to give you examples for inadequate intake of low glycemic index vegetables. Now, the inadequate intake of low glycemic index vegetables, that could hit a variety of nutrition-related problems, right? But this is the one that we're going to focus on. So maybe it is a blood sugar issue, gut issue. Maybe they're just not eating enough vegetables. Maybe their fiber is low. This is a great umbrella. So inadequate intake of low glycemic index vegetables, that's plugged into my PES statement. Now, here's the content that makes sense for that. Educational content, low glycemic index load handout. So there's a low glycemic index and low glycemic, the glycemic load handout that you can print as part of your nutrition education. There is also, hundreds of cooking videos, but let's go ahead and show you one. I'm thinking, like, if I'm counseling a client this time of year, we're thinking summer, fresh. So I'm thinking gazpacho, maybe, because that is, maybe you have a client who really just doesn't like being in the kitchen. Gazpacho is perfect. There's assembling, there's no cooking. So let's go to the resource library here just really quickly. I'm going to scan over to cooking videos. For those of you in the Facebook group who are members, you're just going to go to your cooking videos aisle or tab in the library, and I'm going to search gazpacho. Don't have to type in too much to get it, and there it is. So here's the gazpacho video. I can generate a link and send that to my client. I can open it up in Canva and brand it for my practice if I wanted to include it in a more structured intervention or a course. I could also download the recipe in a high resolution image if I wanted to send a really nice email, or I wanted to do a blog post that included this. So there's the gazpacho. And within the library, you can actually play a preview of it so that you can decide, okay, is this going to be something that I want to share with this particular client? An anti-inflammatory meal plan. Our anti-inflammatory meal plan, by definition, is lower carb. It's definitely low in processed carbs. None of our meal plans contain a lot of highly processed carbohydrates. Things like whole grain pasta are included on like our flex plan or our Mediterranean diet. But the anti-inflammatory plan, very tight carbohydrate control. So the anti-inflammatory meal plan would be absolutely brilliant for this type of a client. Then potentially putting the client in the direction of like an evergreen lesson. It's like a 15-minute lesson on vegetables, and it talks about low glycemic index foods and vegetables versus higher processed foods. So let's go into the resource library here. I'm going to go to course collections. Let's just type in vegetables. I actually didn't do this before we started, so there's a couple things are going to come up. Okay, so there's quite a few things on vegetables, but here's the one I'm looking at. So this is an entire like mini module, mini course, would probably take 15 minutes for a client or patient to view, but we give you everything you need to include this as part of your intervention. So you get a lesson plan, you get a slide deck, you get a script, what to say on every slide, knowledge check. And then down here, actually, let me open up the lesson so that you can see, right, there's an orientation for you, facilitator's guide, materials and resources. Here's your slide deck. Can't change what you can't measure. So we're going to give you a knowledge check here so that you can check on clients to make sure that they learned about vegetables. We provide you with recommended cooking videos to include. These are all totally appropriate for low glycemic index. So great for this problem and diagnosis for this patient. And then we provide you with goal setting. Again, you can't change what you can't measure. So having somebody set a SMART goal after they watch this, you're going to check in with them and say, what was your goal and how did you might even ask them to upload their SMART goals sheet, and then follow up with them. Like, how did it go? Are you more comfortable with purchasing, preparing, and consuming, right? Purchasing, preparing, and consuming, those are three different behaviors. Did you purchase the low glycemic index vegetables? Did you prepare them, and did you consume them? And maybe you consumed them and didn't like them. So, okay, well, let's find other things, right? That's part of the monitoring and evaluation. You're going to constantly kind of be coming back to it. So we've thought of everything, so you don't have to. You need to do the goal setting sheet as part of your nutrition care process. Okay, any questions so far? We're just moving along here, buzzing along. Give me a heart or a thumbs up if this is all making sense to everybody. Give us a heart or a thumbs up. Okay. So next, in terms of, again, we're still answering this question on the intervention piece, like just building out this intervention. How do you create the intervention? I'm going to answer the question, how do you create an intervention without totally burning out? Because you're going to have more than one client. You're going to hopefully have more than 10 clients. So how do you keep doing this? Are you going to build a custom intervention for every single client? Clearly the answer should be no. Unless each client is paying you a good fee for a 3-month program, which might be the case, in which case you're still going to be able to do a little bit of rinse and repeat, especially if you have a tight niche, but they're going to expect a little bit more kind of customization. But rinsing and repeating is kind of my big tip number 2 on creating interventions. So once you start building these interventions for individual clients, you're going to see that they can apply to other clients. So reusing interventions works particularly well if you have a tight niche. So within any niche, there are going to be pillars of people that you serve. For example, if your focus is menopause, I use that a lot. So for my menopausal ladies, hello, welcome to the group. If you serve people who've been touched by menopause, either perimenopause or menopausal, they're going to come to you with a variety of problems associated with menopause. And each problem is going to require a unique intervention. So I'm not telling you that you have to create just one intervention for your entire niche. If you take a look at your niche, almost always, you're going to be able to identify pillars within that niche, maybe 4. That's pretty common, like 4 to 6. 6 would be a lot, like 4 to 6. Now, if you're a generalist, or if you take insurance and you see a lot of people with a lot of different conditions, you're probably still going to be able to create these pillars, but they're going to be more problem related, right? So if somebody has inadequate intake of low glycemic index vegetables or inadequate intake of fiber, I know what intervention I'm going to be using for them, right? And all of these interventions can be built inside your EHR, which is yet another reason to use an EHR. HIPAA compliance first, but then also kind of keeping everything in its place. And remember that study that I just reviewed on this webinar with the Academy, it was very clear. If you follow the nutrition care process within your EHR, you're going to get better health outcomes for your clients. So the key is to use content that you can edit and repurpose, and that is flexible enough to meet the needs of the populations you serve. Again, even if you have a niche, you're going to have multiple populations. Okay, I want to know from you at this point now, I want to know from you, please type in comments, what is the one thing that you have done? What is the one piece of an intervention that you include for all? What's the one thing that you rinse and repeat for everybody? Is it a handout? Is it one-on-one counseling? Maybe that's your jam right now. Just let me know. Drop in the comments, what is the one thing that you include or that maybe you've been including recently that you're loving in your interventions? That's great. I would love to hear from you. So please drop in comments and let me know that. Okay, so question number 2. While you guys are typing in what's the favorite part of your intervention that you've been using lately, I really want to hear from you. Question number 2, how do I prioritize goals and create a clear plan of action after the assessment? So this, for me, I mean, a lot of that we talked about already answering question number 1, but for me, this is really more about the monitoring and evaluation piece of ADIME. So goals are set based on assessment and diagnosis, right? They are assigned in the intervention And then they are followed up with M&E, right? So goals are set based on the assessment and diagnosis, and really understanding the problem, building an intervention that addresses it. They're assigned in the intervention, meaning that you and the patient and client work together to decide what the goals are going to be, and then you follow up on them. A goal is, what do they say? A goal that you don't follow up on is just a wish, right? Like, you need to follow up on their goal settings. You need to document it. So we have a goal setting sheet for our members in the library. You should be using that. You should upload that to your EHR. Sometimes with forms like that, like the SMART goals sheet and the goal setting assessment sheet, like when they come back, they can complete the goal setting assessment sheet. Those forms you can either use as a form, it's like a fillable PDF for your clients, or within your EHR, you can build those out. So you can actually build a form and just click and send it, or automate it and send it to a client. So it doesn't always have to be like a PDF, but it can be either way if you're using a good quality EHR. Okay. All right, so here's how to keep the momentum going. So the monitoring and evaluation happens like throughout your relationship with the client, because the intervention, like we talked about, it's very fluid, it's very dynamic. Behavior change is not unidirectional. So you need to be flexible with the intervention throughout the monitoring and evaluation, knowing that, some parts of your intervention aren't going to land with that client. Some are not going to be effective. They're not going to like it all. So you're going to have to be, you're going to have to be flexible that way too. And you're going to have to monitor them really and evaluate them until a client hits maintenance phase. Now, the maintenance phase is not part of ADIME, it's part of behavior change, but that is where the client feels comfortable and has met their goal. For me, from a nutrition perspective, that means that they have established a repertoire of behaviors, a repertoire of recipes, a repertoire of, again, behaviors. So think about like cooking. Are they buying the right things at the grocery store every time? Are they preparing things? Are they cooking things? Are they eating things that align with the goal that was set? If yes, they've hit maintenance, but we want to keep them there. So even after a client works with you, let's say that you do their bioscreen assessment, you've improved their score by, let's say 10, 12 points. You only need to improve it by 5, by the way, to get a better health outcome, statistically speaking. But let's say you have really great success. Great. We want to keep you there. What are the resources that you can provide them? Now go back to the intervention, right? I'm going to provide you with a maintenance intervention so that you can kind of keep having success. You just kind of go through this cycle. Maybe 3 months, 6 months later, that client comes back to you. Oh, I need a refresh. Okay, let's revisit what we did and kind of go through it again. So it's a very fluid process. So in terms of kind of keeping the momentum, now when I say momentum, I don't mean just like going forward, right? So momentum kind of just means like keep the conversation going, keep the client engaged, because when you keep the client engaged, they're happier, they continue to pay, and insurance continues to pay, and you drive revenue for your practice. So really, really important to kind of keep that momentum going. Number one is to kind of set the right goals, right? What's urgent? What's foundational for this client? What's the low-hanging fruit? And again, what is measurable? Do not give somebody a goal that they can't measure. That's pointless, right? That's why SMART goals are, they catch a little bit of flack, but it's still a great framework, and it's got enough evidence behind it. Like, I think we should still be considering it. It doesn't have to be rigid, but it needs to be measurable. So it has to be pretty specific so that you can support the client. The overall messaging here is that you don't deliver everything all at once. Right? So to kind of keep this momentum going, if you deliver everything all at once to the client, what's going to happen? They're going to become overwhelmed, and they're going to be paralyzed into inaction. It happens a lot. When it comes to meal, I'm going to give you a perfect example. When it comes to meal planning, never give a client a 7-day or even a 5-day meal plan. It is overwhelming. It's too much information. Now you might be saying, and the client might be saying, well, what am I going to eat the other, 3 or 4 days? Well, you're going to engage in these sustainable behaviors that people who follow a healthy lifestyle engage in. People who follow a healthy lifestyle do not make new breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner every single day, something different every single day. It's just not the reality. The reality is they lock into a repertoire, and that is the goal for your clients and your patients. Find a repertoire that works for you, that you can, where you can serve meals that, please your family, please yourself, and help you meet your health goals, right? So delivering it all at once, like too much in the intervention, too much information, it's going to work against them. So use your goal setting sheets and your goal setting assessments inside of your Living Fit RX library, so that you can, again, keep that momentum going, kind of reassessing every time, and then coming back, and then kind of dripping out the information. It's kind of the point I'm trying to make here, right? You don't want to just give it to them all at once and say, good luck with that. Even if you take insurance, right? You get paid when that person shows up into the session. So you need to keep them coming back and keep the conversation going. I would also say, in terms of goal setting, let me just show you what the goal setting sheet looks like. I think we can, I'm going to go into a course. Let's just go into let's go into heart health. That's a good one. It's a nice, so the heart health course, a little bit more robust, right? A lot more information to cover. It's 4 modules long instead of 1. And what you'll note here, just see over here, there's lesson number 1. There is a goal setting sheet. At the end, I'm going to click on that so you can see that. Here's the goal setting sheet at the end of lesson number 1. So at the beginning of lesson number 2, for my motivational interviewing people out there, what are you going to do? They're going to issue the goals, and then they're going to come back. And what you're going to do is you're going to assess how they did. Ask them how they did. Now, in a group setting, this works out really nicely, where everybody sets goals. We talk about our goals. Yes, I'm going to make the hummus once next week, and I'm going to consume 2 low glycemic index vegetables with the hummus. Fabulous. Or I'm going to buy the hummus even and consume cucumbers and endive. Maybe that's a new vegetable for that person. And then I'm going to come into lesson number 2. They come back either virtually, in person, however you deliver it. And then there's a goal achievement survey. So this is an assessment. How did it go? Right? This is the key to behavior change. Set the goals. How did it go? It went well. Great. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. If it didn't go great, let's revisit the problem. Let's revise a goal. Maybe making the hummus wasn't for you, right? Maybe you're just not that comfortable in the kitchen yet. So go buy the hummus. And these are some of the brands I recommend. Is that making sense to everybody? Okay. Just coming into our Facebook group here. Great. All right. So goal achievement and goal setting. Very, very important for the nutrition care process. Let me come back to our library here. Perfect. All right. So choose 3 behavior goals per session. So clients don't need to make 10 changes all at once. You just want to have them get some quick wins. So focusing on those actionable SMART goals is really important. And I'm going to give you some examples. And these actually are examples that were based on the assessment that I might have done on this patient, right? Part of the bioscreen assessment. It showed that potentially they weren't consuming enough fiber, or maybe they were consuming too many processed carbohydrates for snacks. So I came up with a couple of goals here. So consume 1 serving of whole fruit daily. What does that mean to the client? I want you to eat an apple, a banana, or a cup of berries every single day, one or the other. Have an apple on Monday, berries on Tuesday, banana on Wednesday. That's all I'm asking you to do, because doing that can move the needle for your healthy eating index score. Consuming half a cup of whole grains 3 times per week. Give them a recipe and a cooking video, right? That's easy. Consuming the whole fruit, you don't really need to provide them too much with a resource for that. But consuming things that they have to cook, you're going to want to give them a resource. So give them a recipe, give them a cooking video. Purchase jarred tomato sauce that doesn't have added sugar. And here's what you can do with it. You want to give them I'm making it tonight, actually, the chicken cacciatore, the baked chicken cacciatore, which is basically kind of a dump and bake recipe, but you want to have the right jarred tomato sauce for that. So give them some instructions, give them the recipe, the cooking video. Purchase frozen cod. Always should have frozen fish in your freezer. What can I do really quick and easy? Maybe use that jarred tomato sauce, maybe use canned beans or frozen vegetables. Either way, give them a recipe and a cooking video. And then lastly here, using a framework like SMART goals. For those of you who use SMART goals in your practice, could you type SMART in comments? Let me know if you use SMART goals in your practice. If you don't, I strongly recommend that you start using them. It's really a fun way to help people move along a health behavior change. All right, number 3, what are the most common mistakes that nutrition professionals make after the assessment, and how can you avoid them? We talked a little bit, I kind of peppered that in through our entire conversation. But this is a great question. So I'm going to give you some kind of targeted problems, some common mistakes with a quick solution, right? Problem number one is not focusing on intake and dietary pattern long enough. So long-term positive health outcomes come from changing someone's dietary pattern, not what they ate for the past 3 days, right? Or even the past month. So you need to be able to assess their dietary pattern. That is notoriously difficult to do. Again, if you're a Living Plate RX member, you have access to our integrated, validated tool that will share with you what that looked like. You and your client need time to really potentially reverse or kind of modify their course. And it's going to take 90 days. There's not going to be any quick fix, right? And I know that we all know that. We all are kind of, in it with our clients for the long term. So, but focusing on, the 90 days could be really, really helpful. So using an FFQ, something like a bioscreen, is what they do in research. And I suggest that we should do that too to solve that problem of not focusing on intake long enough. Not following a reproducible plan. Number one, it's a quick way to burn out. And so the way that you solve this problem is to map out your client experience through ADIME, which we shared with you today, and use it every time. So plug the process into your EHR and it will make it seamless. Number three, overloading the client, giving too much too fast leads to overwhelm. The solution is to drip out the content and support your clients between sessions. Now, dripping out the content, like the intervention is what I'm talking about to them, is very specific to them. But you can also provide them with support. You could send them like your whole email list. You can send them emails between sessions to give them, more group support. You're providing them with the individual counseling and support as part of ADIME, but keeping them engaged between sessions could be really, really helpful. So maybe sending a couple of recipes every 2 weeks to your wider client and patient base would be really helpful to that individual client. And focusing only on nutrition is a mistake too, because clearly lifestyle, mindset, social support, food access, culinary confidence, and environment, that all matters, right? Behavior, changing somebody's nutrition-related behavior is not just about what they eat, never, right? There's so many other things that mediate the process of getting to that better health outcome, right? So you want things that there's some things that you can change and there's some things that you can't, but you have to understand all of that, right? So food access, you might not be able to change, but you can redirect them to foods that are appropriate within their environment. Social support, that's a tough one, right? But you can support them through motivational interviewing to help them. If they're in an environment where they're not supported with meeting their health goals, you can help them navigate that. So again, just encouraging you to think a little bit bigger. Make sure that you have a variety of assessments that are part of your initial assessment. If you do serve people who are in an area with limited food access, you need to assess what they have access to so that you know what to recommend. And then lastly here, not keeping clients engaged and on track in between sessions. So using your EHR to maximize communication without it being like a huge time suck for you is really important. Things like automated reminders, photo journaling is great. It's a way for the client to stay engaged without you actually, counseling, like they're just giving you information. You can schedule texting, like SMS messaging, and of course, emails. You can send messages to your clients from within your EHR. So what do you guys think so far? Drop in a little fire emoji. You feeling okay? It's a lot of information, I know, for our RDs who are on the call. This is probably just a big reminder to kind of stick to ADIME because it is what can spare your time, which is really important, while also supporting practice growth. So I want you to know that we're here to support you beyond these Q&A sessions. So if you are a member, you also get access to your strategy sessions. So make sure that you go into the library to see that. Let me show you where those are located. That's in the Learn session. So our Facebook Live Q&A, you can see here. So you'll be able to access this recording here. And then the tech support calls are also here, which is great. Thank you, Hillary. If you're having issues navigating the platform, building interventions, right? Go into tech support calls and then strategic planning sessions because we're really invested in helping you be successful as a nutrition professional. And that yes, it's about revenue and generating, a profitable practice, but it's also about having a great quality of life and providing you with the resources that you need to be successful. So today's session was amazing. I know there's a lot of information in here. Before we get into any final questions that you might have, I want to make sure that if any of you would like to explore the Living Plate RX system for practice growth, I would love for you to schedule a demo call with us, where I take everybody inside of the library, inside of the meal planning, and it's an open forum. So unlike this, it's in a Zoom room, so you'll be able to ask questions. This is for non-members. If you are a member, you want to join the strategy calls on the inside. This is really for people who have not seen the inside of Living Plate RX. And I will take you through the meal planning platform, which is drag and drop, best in the business. You'll see the largest evidence-based nutrition content library that you've ever seen that is fully editable and brandable for your practice. I'll show you some plug and play marketing tools, everything from social media posts and calendar planners, which are really hot with our community, to things like opt-ins and email sequences. Again, all that stuff that takes you away from your nutrition care process, which is what you've been trained for and your focus is. All that other stuff, we take care of it for you. So all you have to do is edit it and brand it. We provide you with significant kind of business and marketing training as well. Then you get the VioScreen access. So the VioScreen access plus the continuing education units, which we also give you. So as RDs, we need to earn 15 CEUs per year to meet a requirement in our 5-year period. You get access to 15 CEUs through us, through our partner at Today's Dietitian. So we support you with all of the learning that you'll need to do, tech support community, just all really, really good stuff. So if you'd like to see kind of how it works, what the membership feels like, get to know us a little bit better, type demo in the chat, and we'll drop you a link. Or I think, Hillary, you're going to drop a link here too. Is that true, Hillary? Actually, I think she might have already dropped it. Hillary, if you can, I'm not really able to see the live chat right now for some reason, Hillary. So if you can drop that, and if you are on YouTube, LinkedIn, we'll make sure to drop that demo link, and you can just schedule it at a time that's convenient for you. It's not going to take long. The demo call, depending on your questions, is anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. And I'll show you how you can save, at least 10 hours per week in content creation and really building out the nutrition care process for your practice. So just in closing, I am here to support you with the complete solution, not part of the solution, right? If I were coming to you saying, I have the best meal planning tool in the business, that'd be great. But now after today, that is just one small part of the nutrition care process. There is so much more that we need to pay attention to, and our team has built it all for you. So join up for that demo call, and we will take you on a tour. If you are watching this as a replay, we just ask that you use the hashtag replay, kind of share your biggest takeaway and ask your questions. When you drop that tag, we're alerted that you made a comment, and we'll come back to and make sure that all of your questions are answered. So Hillary, do we have any questions so far that I need to answer? If not, if you would please drop that link in, that would be amazing. Hillary is just reminding, lots of fire emojis. Love it. Thank you so much. Hillary was kind of guiding you guys all along the way inside of the Facebook group in terms of where to find all the content that I talked about. Thank you so much, Hillary. And again, if you want to join me for a demo call, please. It's so great to spend that time with you. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I'm really excited to see how you bring this process, like the nutrition care process in ADIME, in like a unique way, right? Really robust and valuable way to your practice. So if you are in our Facebook group, please drop what you're doing. We love to see best practices because we can all learn from each other. Thank you so much for your time today. I know it was a holiday weekend, and so really glad to see a bunch of you here today with us. So thanks again, and I will see you in 2 weeks for our next Q&A. Talk soon. Bye.